In the thrilling third episode of Season 3 of That Time I Got Reincarnated as Slime, a fan-made creation awaits your intent. Deep within the regal chambers of Pharmus, the king and nobles engaged in earnest deliberation. The prospect of becoming a vassal nation hung heavily in the air, its shadow casting doubt over the very survival of Pharmus as an independent realm. The grave implications were crystal clear, bowing to the directives of these enigmatic creatures, the monsters, and severing ties with their Western allies. Moreover, the staggering cost that loomed on the horizon, a colossal choice between parting with 10,000 stellar coins or a mind-boggling 20 million gold coins, equivalent to a staggering 20% of Pharmus' hard-earned tax revenue. King Admaris, in a rare moment of introspection, conceded that their reckless war against the monsters had been driven by his own selfish desires, his hubris eclipsing the wisdom of the sagacious and far-sighted advisors who had urged caution. Edward, a stalwart presence as Admaris' brother, voiced his dissent. He questioned if this meant that their proud king had capitulated to the dire circumstances they faced. In response, Admaris offered a passionate counterpoint, dismissing the very notion of pride when confronted by the omnipotent storm dragon. Such was the awe-inspiring reputation of Admaris that his legend had reached those not present in the chamber. The king, sensing the gravity of their situation, implored the noble assembly to reconsider their limited options. Becoming vassals was an unattractive path, leaving only two alternatives: yielding to the onerous burden of war reparations or pressing onward with the seemingly endless conflict. Suddenly, a commotion erupted as a soldier burst through the chamber doors, clutching a report from the guild. The contents revealed a shocking twist. The Sky Queen Harpy and the Beast Master had deserted their posts, choosing to pledge allegiance to the enigmatic destroyer. This shift in allegiance effectively reduced the number of demon lords to 8, forming a newly christened octagram. The nobles, baffled by this sudden development, probed for the identity of the elusive 8th member. The soldier's voice quivered as he delivered the astonishing news. The Marionette Master, Clayman, had met his demise, vanquished by none other than the rising star demon lord, Rimuru. The revelation sent shockwaves through the assembly, intensifying the existing threat posed by Veldora. The nobles rapidly converged on a unanimous decision to fulfill the burdensome war reparations. Taking matters a step further, King Admaris announced his abdication, designating his brother Edward as his successor. In a corner of the room, Shogo observed with satisfaction, convinced that the intricate machinations of Diablo were unfolding flawlessly. In the heart of Rimuru's capital, Shuna's return from Clayman's territory was marked by a warm embrace with Rimuru. The joy of reuniting with Sui and Shuna was palpable, and the method of their arrival was a feat of teleportation and spatial motion. Alongside them, they brought White King Adelman, along with his loyal skeleton army. Adelman's devout following had grown to the extent that Rimuru had to temporarily delay his physical presence. Sui, displaying unwavering loyalty, led Adelman and his contingent of the undead to Veldora's ancient dwelling, as Hakuro's incapability to perform spatial motion made his retrieval alongside Gelda's subsequent necessity. The return of Benimaru, post-conflict, marked a new chapter, with him bringing not just 3 dedicated beast keepers but also a host of prisoners of war, remnants of Clayman's ill-fated army. Among these captives, some were judiciously redistributed to neighboring villages, while others found themselves in the bustling capital, destined to acquire new technological skills under the watchful eye of Geld. This unique labor force, formerly members of Clayman's army, was designated to play a pivotal role in the reconstruction of Yerzania, a region once ravaged by the formidable Malign Nava. Veldora, ever the vigilant observer, expressed concerns about the potential for rebellion among these prisoners of war. Yet, his unease was swiftly quelled by Benimaru's assurance, underpinned by a demonstration that left no room for dissent. Several days hence, Diablo graced the capital with his presence, bearing a chest laden with stellar coins, a generous offering from Pharmus to commence the complex reparations process. The sum total reached a staggering 1,500 stellar coins, constituting the inaugural installment. Intriguingly, the lion's share of this wealth had been sourced directly from the personal treasury of the former king. Admaris, King Gazel, the mastermind behind the coins minting, disclosed that the total number of stellar coins in circulation amounted to a mere 10,000, with 1 coin produced monthly. Rimuru's newfound possession of 1,500 stellar coins hinted at a commanding influence over more than 10% of the world's currency. The specter of accumulating interest on unpaid reparations and the impending stern rule of the incoming monarch, King Edward, backed by the formidable Western Church, loomed large. Diablo expounded on the dangerous strategy of the new king, likely to divert blame onto his predecessor. The inimitable Yume, armed with a cunning knack for exposing insincerity, was poised to enter the fray, potentially igniting a civil war. Rimuru was once again struck by the astuteness of Diablo's insight. Diablo's recollection led him to a crucial realization about Archbishop Reheim of Farmus, who was called in Saint Church. Church was probably interested in the developments in Farmus in the Tempest War. Rimuru, harboring his own reservations, remained apprehensive about the Church's antagonistic stance towards monsters. Despite these concerns, he acceded to the request. Keen to gauge the Church's response, Rimuru took the opportunity to dispatch a personal message, encapsulated within a magical orb acquired from Clayman's fortress. Several days later, Gabimaru made his triumphant return, accompanied by his loyal forces and the prisoners of war. Rimuru praised his accomplishments, but Gabimaru, ever humble, acknowledged the path that still lay ahead. Gabimaru recounted his fateful encounter with a fervent dragon worshipper, Mildlay, who had bested him in combat. Additionally, he delivered a heartfelt letter from the indomitable Malim, requesting to learn the art of cooking from Rimuru. Gabimaru's revelation that Mildlay's community had no concept of culinary preparation, relying instead on raw sustenance, illuminated the stark cultural contrast. Amid their conversation, Gabimaru regaled Rimuru with the affection and admiration he had earned from his companions. Following this exchange, Gabimaru returned to his abode within the cave. A full month had elapsed since the Valpurgis, and the capital's population had burgeoned considerably, exuding vibrancy and fervor. Geld, now presiding over the management of prisoners of war, reveled in the joy of the occasion. The newfound responsibility, however, sparked contemplation about Rimuru's remarkable ability to govern a vast populace, a skill that stood in stark contrast to Geld's own challenges in overseeing a smaller contingent of captives. Rimuru, the eternal encourager, motivated Geld to embrace the opportunity. The two celebrated their camaraderie throughout the night, with spirited merriment echoing through the hours. Subsequently, Rimuru embarked on a teleportation journey to retrieve Hakuro, a gesture that touched Hakuro's heart deeply. In their conversation, Hakuro divulged the discovery of an enigmatic ruin named Gustav, guarded by an enclave of dark elves. Rimuru issued strict instructions to maintain secrecy surrounding this mysterious location. With the entire assembly of Rimuru's trusted companions gathered within the capital, a momentous gathering was convened. Rimuru took the center stage to officially declare his elevated status as a demon lord. Furthermore, he announced the extension of his dominion to encompass the entirety of the Great Jura Forest. Benimaru's inquiry about the other side of the river prompted Rimuru's unwitting agreement, setting in motion the murmurs that swept through the assembly. This was an inadvertent declaration that could potentially lead to local conflicts. Benimaru, ever the astute counselor, clarified the situation. Rimuru's previous role as Chancellor of the Jura Forest had only covered a mere 30% of the entire forest, governed by the Dryads. The potential ramifications were clear. The Dryads were now poised to assume control over the entire forest, with their ambitions set and monsters seeking the protection of a demon lord. The stage was set for a grand greeting or a perceived act of rebellion. Rimuru, exasperated by the prospect of daily meetings, proposed a grand celebration that would serve the dual purpose of addressing Malim's request and enticing new residents to the fold. The unanimous agreement resonated throughout the assembly, setting the stage for an epic gathering. Invitations were dispatched far and wide, extending courtesies to kings and queens from across the land, including various monstrous envoys. The budgetary concerns were a non-issue, thanks to the considerable wealth represented by the 1,500 stellar coins. To ensure that the impending festivities would be savored to the fullest, Rimuru rallied to complete all pending tasks. Diablo was tasked with submitting a comprehensive report on Farmus. King Edward was engaged in the intricate process of recruiting mercenaries and raising an army. However, the whereabouts of Reheim remained a mystery, as he had yet to return from the Saint Church. Rimuru, beset by concerns, inquired about Reheim's well-being, prompting Diablo to assuage his apprehensions. As Diablo affirmed, anyone ensnared by his formidable skill, Tempter, would transmit word of their demise. Furthermore, Reheim had been personally escorted to the Saint Church by Diablo's minions, ensuring his safe arrival. As for the question of whether the Saint Church would align with Farmus's army, Shina cast doubt upon this prospect. Her reasoning lay in the fact that Veldora now stood as a formidable ally. It appeared that a mysterious force, an invisible hand, guided the machinations of Farmus. Hinata, and the Western Church, all converging toward a common objective. This fact was not lost on Rimuru, who sensed the presence of a mastermind orchestrating the intricate web of events. Raphael interjected with a thought-provoking notion, suggesting that it was unwise to assume a solitary mastermind. Instead, they entertained the possibility of multiple masterminds acting in tandem. Rimuru, deep in thought, considered the implications of this revelation. He pondered whether the individual who had pitted Hinata against him might not be the same as Hinata might have grudge over alleged death of her teacher, Shizu. In the heart of the Saint Church, a crucial meeting convened to discuss the resurrection of Veldora and the impending emergence of a new demon lord. At the helm of these momentous deliberations was none other than the resolute Hinata.